This is the Pro Football Report presented by BCWSA, a weekly recap of your Eagles and news around the NFL. Broadcasting live from Chickies and Pete's. Tonight's show is brought to you by Rob's Automotive and Collision, BCWSA, Chickies and Pete's, Begley, Carlin and Mandio Law Firm, Penworth Financial Services, Penn Community Bank, The Capitol Grill, and Ventresca's LTD. We now go live to Chickies and Pete's for the Pro Football Report, presented by BCWSA. Now, here are your hosts from Inside the Birds, Adam Caplan and Andrew DiCecco.
What's happening, everybody? You're listening to the Pro Football Report presented by BCWSA right here on 1490 WBCB and 107.3 FN and seen live at WBCBsports.com. I'm Andrew DiCecco, Eagles beat reporter for InsideTheBirds.com. I will soon be joined by my co-host, the great Adam Caplan, and we are live here from Chickies and Pete's on Roosevelt Boulevard. And your Philadelphia Eagles improved to 8-2 with a tremendous defensive performance, beating the Detroit Lions 16-9. And it may not have been aesthetically pleasing. It may have looked like a game that would have taken place somewhere in the 1990s, but that was one of the best defensive performances that I've seen, and I think that group, led by Vic Fangio, deserves a lot of credit. And we'll get to the offense later on in the program, but I want to focus right now on the defense and the performance that they were able to have against a high-powered Detroit Lions offense that entered Lincoln Financial Field averaging 31.4 points per game. For perspective, the Eagles held quarterback Jared Goff to an average of 30. He completed an average of 37.8% of his passes. Now, Jalen Hurts completed just 50%. But I think you have to look at, from the early stages of that game, he never looked comfortable. And my biggest takeaway from this game was the transition, the transformation, if you will, of this Eagles defense. And the pressure that they've been able to put on Jordan Love in Green Bay, and the pressure they put on Jared Goff. It's no mistake that it happened to coincide with the arrival of newly acquired pass rusher Jaelan Phillips, who picked up his first sack as an Eagle on Sunday night, but also the insertion of Nakobe Dean in this defense have sort of injected some life and physicality and tenacity into this group. And I've talked a lot about Nakobe Dean for those of you who have followed my work, and for good reason. Because I viewed him, even dating back to last season, as the heartbeat of the Eagles defense, and it seems like many are starting to see it in the same way. And he's sort of the quarterback out there. He's often the smartest player on the field because he sees the game almost like a coach does. And he processes and reads and diagnoses so quickly. And he made some nice plays against the run, but also in pass coverage, where he had to track Jahmyr Gibbs, who's one of the most explosive running backs in the NFL, or Jamison Williams, the wide receiver, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Jaelan Phillips provides a lot of pressure, and it wasn't only Jaelan Phillips. They've now gotten back Nolan Smith off injured reserve. That was his second game back. He's starting to ramp up his snaps. And Jalux Hunt maybe put together his best game as a pro, all over the field, 3 quarterback hits in that game. And it also, when you have a pass rush like that, ideally you want to marry your rush and your cover and your coverage on the back end. And the Eagles have found the perfect balance and the perfect remedy in adding someone like a Jaelan Phillips, because now you're allowing your secondary to play a little bit more fast and free. And you don't hear the name of an Adoree Jackson, who's settled into this second cornerback role. And I think that's important to note here, because Vic Fangio earlier in the week referred to Adoree Jackson as a survivor. And for someone who's lasted 9 years in the league, I know that he was scrutinized after week 1, and I think a lot of that was unfair. You have to allow players who are new to a team, or if they're a rookie, you got to allow time for things to play out. And all of a sudden, when you have the pass rush that the Eagles have, you're able to mask some of those maybe sore spots, if you will, whether it's Adoree Jackson or a rookie safety in Drew Makuba. And I think Adoree Jackson played really well in that game. He had the fourth down stop where he blanketed Amon-Ra St. Brown in the end zone on that 4th and 3. It was a savvy veteran move, and I actually mentioned this to Adoree after the game. I said that was a savvy move because you used the sideline as an extra defender and you squeezed them, and he chuckled at that. But he also made some nice tackles in that game. And right now what you're seeing is a defense that's starting to hit its stride after the past 2 weeks. And you can look at it and say, is this sustainable? Can they continue to lean on this defense to propel them forward without having the offensive performance to be able to play complementary football and uplift them? And I would say yes, it is sustainable, but you can't always expect the defense to pick up the tab for the offense. It's too high-powered. There's too many prolific players and standouts, and we've seen it glimpses of what the offense can be, but it hasn't been consistent enough. They haven't been able to put together 4 consecutive quarters of Eagles football. Now, the defense holding the Green Bay Packers to 7 points, holding the Detroit Lions to 9 points, I mean, that's going to win you most every game, but it's not realistic and it's not fair to expect them to be able to do that each and every week. But what you're seeing right now, and I don't think it's hyperbole, is a defense that is among the NFL's elite and quite possibly the best defense in the NFL, and I don't see them slowing down anytime soon. You can sort of see the symbiotic relationship that they all have, and they're playing cohesively as a unit. Now, from an offensive standpoint, I look at it, and I'm never one to, make excuses for it or look to, pinpoint certain things. They have to play better. But, I mean, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the wind that impacted both quarterbacks. Jared Goff entered that game second in the NFL in touchdown passes with 20. I mentioned the Lions averaging 31.4 points going into that game. He wasn't able to get anything going, nor was Jalen Hurts, at least in the passing game. A.J. Brown was heavily featured in this one, 7 targets, 49 yards. I didn't think that A.J. had a particularly good game, nor do I think that Jalen Hurts had a particularly good game. They weren't able to sustain anything in terms of the ground attack with Saquon Barkley. And you have to look at it. If you're the offense right now, what can you hang your hat on? There isn't one area that you can definitively say they're a run-first team, or they're a pass team, or they're a team that knows how to grind out tough yards in short yardage situations. They don't have an identity, but it hasn't seemed to matter. They find ways to win football games, and I understand that it isn't always aesthetically pleasing. But I think when you going back to Nick Sirianni's philosophy, what they want to do is play clean football, meaning take care of the football, protect it, be risk-averse, and take your deep shots when you can, when the opportunity presents itself. And they've had a remarkable track record of success dating back to really week 6 of last season. In fact, I believe it's been 588 Jalen Hurts pass attempts, his last 588 throws. I think there's only been 2 interceptions. So that has been a successful recipe for success for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, when you have that many resources invested in the offense, I understand where the frustration sets in. Believe me. But I look at it through a different lens because I cover the team. I'm there every day. And you can't pinpoint it solely on Kevin Patullo, the Eagles offensive coordinator. I know he's the popular target right now, but I think that that's a little short-sighted. Yes, the play calling and sequencing needs to be better. And he's very much learning on the job. But I also look at the health status of the offensive line, which we're going to get to in a moment. I also look at their inability to run the football with any sort of success. And foundationally, we all know that that's how the Eagles are built. That's what they want to do, and that's what they strive to do each and every week. So when you can't do that, you're now reliant on the passing game, which in the Saquon Barkley era, there's been no evidence to support the notion that there's supposed to be this dynamic, high-flying passing attack. So you look at the offensive line and the health status there. Cam Jurgens, the center, left the game early, so we're going to have to wait on the injury status for him. And Lane Johnson, which we're going to talk a little bit more about in a moment here, I mean, they're not able to generate any sort of traction in the ground game. I mentioned the play calling. That needs to be better. And there are plays to be made in the passing game that either Jalen Hurts isn't getting rid of the football, he's not seeing it, but I look at all those things, and that is the sort of what's all baked into the offense not playing to the standard in which they set for themselves. So Cam Jurgens, he got hurt later in that game. He went into the game with a hefty brace on his right knee. He missed the Giants game, and he missed the Packers game. Brett Toth started both of those games, performed admirably. He had to play 11 snaps later in the Detroit Lions game. His first snap was against it was in that push play. But you worry about Cam Jurgens. I think you also have to look at the Lane Johnson situation, and it's not as simple as next man up. Not when you're talking about someone like Lane Johnson, because I believe the Eagles are 15-23 without him, and you can look at what Fred Johnson has been able to do stepping in, and he's done a yeoman's job whenever he's been pressed into service. But I look at Lane Johnson and what he means to the Philadelphia Eagles, what he's meant to them since he was drafted back in 2013, the best in the business at what he does, and the team plays differently when he's in the lineup and when he's not in the lineup. So it looks like, I know the initial timetable was 4 to 6 weeks with the Liz Frank injury that he sustained. 4 weeks is on the optimistic side. That is a very significant injury. Now, a lot needs to be determined as to the full extent of it, but to not have him in there, regardless of how efficient Fred Johnson has played when his number's been called, it is something that we need to be mindful of. And I look at the situation right there, and Fred Johnson in spot duty. I think the Eagles were 5-1 last season in games in which he had to start. This would be for an extended period. And going against a team like, let's say this week, like the Dallas Cowboys, in a noisy, raucous environment, that's something that could manifest early. You could see some issues with protection up front early in that one, but we'll have to wait and see what that all means for Lane Johnson. And for Cam Jurgens, he didn't look quite right in that game. He wasn't making the typical blocks and getting out in space and things that he usually does. So I think if you're the Eagles and you're really keeping an eye towards the stretch run, I think it behooves them almost to sit Cam Jurgens for a little bit and allow him to get healthy. And it makes it a little bit easier when someone like Brett Toth has performed well when he's had to step in, and just roll Brett Toth out there and just sort of allow the key players like Cam Jurgens, and we'll see about Lane Johnson, to get healthy. But circling back to the defensive side of the ball, I mentioned him to start, and I'm going to continue to sort of champion this player, and that is Nakobe Dean. I was out front of his locker for about 15 minutes when he spoke, for all 15 minutes that he spoke, and it's not hyperbole for me to say that he is sort of the stick of TNT that defense needed to rev things up and get it going. And him being that quarterback on the field is totally invaluable. And Vic Fangio has a lot of trust and confidence in Nakobe Dean. But one thing that you talk to Nakobe Dean for about 5 minutes, and you're going to hear the word physicality, and playing on their terms at least 3 times. At least 3 times. That's something that he believes in, but he doesn't just say it. He lives it. And when he's out there on the field, I think he sort of, to kind of summarize how his mindset is defensively, when in doubt, strike somebody, is what he says. And I'll never forget what he said. As a linebacker, you set the tone, and he said, we run with 4-3, and we bang with 350. So that there's not a whole lot that needs to be said about how he approaches that role. But it's more so how he plays opposite Zach Bond, the mindset that he brings and instills, the belief and the confidence within that unit. He can play the run. He's very effective attacking downhill. That's what he really thrives at doing. But he's also a good blitzer. And we saw that he can really thrive in coverage when given the opportunity. And I guess the question that we're all going to have moving forward, and Vic Fangio talked a little bit about that today when he met with us, about the rotation at linebacker with first-round pick Jahad Campbell. That's something that you can expect to continue throughout the season, and he said as much today. There's going to be a role for Campbell, and I believe he played 20 snaps, which was a season low for him. Nakobe Dean has really taken the mantle as that second off-ball linebacker opposite Zach Bond. And for Jahad Campbell, you always want to keep him involved because he has made tangible strides as a rookie every single week. And you don't want to deprive him of snaps to stunt his growth. But you have to look at what Nakobe Dean has brought to the defense. And when you look at it through that lens, it's almost impossible to take him off the field. He's been an instrumental piece as to why the defense over the past couple of weeks has really started to hit their stride. And another facet of this game that I found to be totally fascinating was the batted passes at the line of scrimmage. Because Jordan Davis had 3. Jalen Carter had 2. And when Vic Fangio was asked about that today, he said, well, it wasn't implemented by me. That was Clint, meaning Clint Hurt, the Eagles defensive line coach. They saw that opportunity that Jared Goff was susceptible to some batted passes, and the Eagles pounced on that. That was one of those facets in that game that I thought really hindered what the Lions were able to do, because there were times where there were plays to be made and they weren't able to do it because of those batted passes. And yes, Dan Campbell and the Lions, you got to give them credit. There were a lot of questionable fourth down decisions in there, but the Eagles held them to 0 for 5 on fourth down situations. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I have to imagine that doesn't happen all that often. But I do give credit to Dan Campbell, because that's who he is. That's who he's always been. He is not risk averse. He's aggressive. Sometimes that borders on reckless, but they leaned into their ideologies and their philosophies. So I give him a lot of credit there, but you also have to tip your hat to the Eagles defense for making plays. Now, there were times where Jared Goff misfired or threw short, whether it was Amon-Ra St. Brown or Jamison Williams. Players were open, or at least it didn't look as egregious because they had an opportunity to be a successful play, but the Eagles were all over it. And they almost seemed to take that game personally, and I look forward to talking to a lot of the guys tomorrow when they have open locker room. But I was thoroughly impressed with what they've been able to do, coming together and all buying into the collective message of somebody go out there and make a play. And the rush and the cover, they're able to marry that, and that's the ingredients that makes a good defense. But we're going to take a quick break. We're going to get into the injury report brought to you by the attorneys at Begley, Carlin, and Mandio. And you are listening to the Pro Football Report on 1490 WBCB and 107.3 FM, and seen live at WBCBsports.com.
Hi, it's Pete from Chicky and Pete's. Do you have a large party of 10, 20, even 50 people? We can't wait to treat you like family at Chicky and Pete's. Forget about deposits or credit card reservations. Making a reservation for your large group is effortless at Chickies and Pete's. Lots of options to celebrate and make your night out unforgettable. Order off the menu or select from food and drink packages. Private party rooms available. Make your reservations right now at chickiesandpete's.com. And don't forget, Chicky and Pete's gift cards are the perfect fit for any occasion. Only at Chickies and Pete's.
Hey BCWSA customers, this is Tommy Green from the 1993 National League Champion Phillies. My friends at BCWSA are committed to providing us with safe, reliable water and sewer services. They operate state-of-the-art treatment facilities, provide clean drinking water, and make much-needed investments to protect our environment and ensure a sustainable future. Learn how BCWSA's investments help grow and serve our communities. Visit bcwsa.net. BCWSA, prove it.
Rob's Automotive and Collision Center in Lower Bucks County is a full-service repair center with competitive prices, top-of-the-line products, and the finest auto body and mechanical repair technicians anywhere. Rob's makes repairing your car easy. Same-day service guaranteed. Whether it's an oil change, state inspection, or a mechanical issue, Rob's will have you in and out and on your way. 2700 Veterans Highway in Bristol, 215-826-9200 for 24-hour emergency towing. Call 215-826-0250.
We now return to Chickies and Pete's for the Pro Football Report, presented by BCWSA. Once again, here are your hosts from Inside the Birds, Adam Caplan and Andrew DiCecco.
Welcome back in, everybody. Andrew DiCecco here, as you just heard. Eagles beat reporter for InsideTheBirds.com. I will soon be joined by Adam Caplan, who's dealing with some traffic at the moment. But we are live here from Chickies and Pete's on Roosevelt Boulevard. I had a lobster cheesesteak, which I highly recommend, and, of course, the crab fries. Come on out. It's a great crowd, and we're here talking some Eagles football, as we do each and every Tuesday. And so I look at that game against the Lions, and I understand that there's a lot of questions, a lot of deliberation. At least that's what I've observed in the days after that game as to whether or not this is sustainable. And what I will say is it is fair to expect more and demand more from the offense. I don't think asking for 20 or 24 points, given the high-powered nature of their offense and what we've seen in the past, is too much to ask. But it's kind of hard to argue against what the Eagles have been able to do. And again, I think it's awfully presumptuous to expect the defense to be able to do what they're doing week in and week out. But they've gotten really spirited efforts from the defense and special teams while the offense continues to navigate and do what they can. But the running game, to me, from an Eagles perspective, is something that is a little bit confounding to me, because Saquon Barkley is the same guy. He hasn't lost a step. He's hitting the hole hard. He's explosive. And I think if there's one area that you might want to pinpoint, it's that sometimes it seems like he's pressing, maybe that he's not taking what defenses are giving him, but rather trying to hit the home run. And I think that's fair. But I also look at the health of the offensive line. There are things that the Eagles can do to free some things up. I would like to see some more outside runs where Saquon Barkley or Tank Bigsby have been really efficient hitting the perimeter. If you're going to look at it from a personnel standpoint, and the Eagles went heavy 12 personnel in this game, which means 2 tight ends and not as much 11 personnel, which is an extra wide receiver, which would be Jahan Dotson. I think you have to find ways to shake things up. If you're not going to, if the offense is what it is, and they're not going to be a whole lot of variation, I think you need to find ways to incorporate someone like a Cam Latu if you're going to go 12 personnel, who is a tight end by trade, but he converted to fullback this season. Now, Latu, and I talk to Cam every week. That's my guy. He's done a tremendous job on special teams, extremely physical. But he's the Eagles' second best blocker at the tight end position behind Dallas Goedert. It's not even close. So he played 1 snap on offense against the Lions, and it was the play where it looked like Saquon Barkley scored the touchdown. He laid a really nice block on Aiden Hutchinson, but it ended up not being a touchdown. But it underscores the importance of getting him involved in the offense, because when he is there, you can see the impact that he can have. And so I look at it, Grant Calcaterra played 34 snaps in that game. Kylan Granson played a bunch of snaps in that game as well. But if you're going to go 12 personnel and you're going to commit to that, I think it would serve the Eagles well to incorporate a little bit more Cam Latu. And we're joined by the great Adam Caplan.
Yeah, man,
How
I
you
finally
doing?
got here, brother. It's been a long drive.
How you
Leave it at
doing?
that. Doing all right. Good to see you. Boy, I could have used those earlier. Those crab fries are the best. But yeah, good to see you. Yeah, so, and we'll get into the press conference today, which I thought were interesting. Vic Fangio is awesome. I mean, he's funny. I mean, he's entertaining, but he's informational. That's the key to me. But yeah, so Andrew, one thing I do want to ask you, because I was thinking about, okay, what do you want to get into tonight with you? It's going to be you and I tonight. So when you're in the locker room, right, and you see players come in, for the first time, what do you think of Jalen Phillips' size? It's a funny question, yeah, but I figured
enormous.
Yeah,
And
I want people to understand what you say.
Larger than advertised, but also stronger. He was filled out physically, and I think Nakobe Dean said it best. He lit up when he was asked about Jalen Phillips after the game, and he said, "I love edges who can set the edge."
Did he say that?
Yeah,
Really?
and
Oh, wow.
like when you
Didn't
look
know
at
that.
it, when you look
Wow.
at it in terms of what that means from overall linebacker play, when you're setting the edge with violence and physicality, that allows whether it's Zach Bond, Nakobe Dean, Jihad Campbell to roam free and clean things up, and that's when they're playing at their best. And for Jalen Phillips, who just has a knack for, at least in the 2 games that he's been here with the Eagles, sort of surrounding quarterbacks like he smells blood in the water, like a shark, and he is physical, but he blends in seamlessly with what the Eagles are looking to do defensively, and that is be physical, be tone setters, flow to the football with urgency, and he sort of embodies that. And when I saw him for the first time, I was like, oh yeah, this guy's going to fit right in. And he brings a size that was more akin to what they had with Zadarius Smith.
Or Josh Sweat.
Yeah.
Right. Sweaty was a good player, but this kid, let's not forget, first of all, he's a first-round pick, right? Had he not had 2 major injuries, you're talking probably one of the better edge rushers in the league. His tape has always been good, but he's had 2 major injuries. But now he's healthy. I know it's 2 games. People have to calm down. Oh, could they extend his contract down? Relax. Let him play. Let him play the rest of the season.
Let things play out. A little bit.
But you should feel great about it. I mean, it's Eagles have a pretty good thing going. We'll get to the offense later, but I think right now, Andrew, based on the way the defense is playing, because the new thing is, could they be as good as last year? What are your thoughts on that?
I think they're honestly. I think they're better. This version,
really,
what I just saw from the last 2 weeks.
I know that's okay.
I think they're better because I think the rush like this, with just 2 weeks in with Jalen Phillips, is looking this way. Nolan
Wow.
Smith's going to continue to see an uptick in snaps.
Yeah.
And I think J-Wilkes Hunt on Sunday night played
Boy,
the
he's
best
playing.
game. Played the best game that I've seen him play.
He's coming on, Andrew, to the point where, because that's where I thought he could be a Josh Sweat type. Length, power, plays the run, could rush the passer a little bit. But his upside is so big because it's all of a sudden we went from what we said in training camp. We've talked a lot about it here on the Pro Football Report, presented, by the way, by BCWSA. We talked about it since the summer. Oh, boy, the Eagles edge rush group, not very good. Nolan Smith coming back from an injury. We don't know exactly when he'll be ready. Jags Hunt isn't ready yet. We didn't know about Zadarius Smith. There's a lot we didn't know about the edge rush group. Now they have a lot of guys. In fact, BG, I guess he's the fourth guy right now.
Yeah, Josh Uche for the second consecutive week played
Yep.
0 defensive snaps.
Yep.
But another reason why I think it's even better than it was last season is because teams can no longer key on Jalen Carter. And also Moro Ojomo, who leads the Eagles, I should say, with 4 sacks, gives them more juice from the interior than someone like Milton Williams. Now, Milton Williams was a more complete player, I think that's fair to say. But Ojomo is very disruptive and violent from the interior. And Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean are a year wiser.
True.
And so, yeah, I
think Quinyon's better than last year. I think
he's
It's
better.
possible. That's incredible.
So you're proving my point here. You're helping my point. This is why I think that they can be better.
I know Joey Jackson, his best game as an Eagle. He gave up some plays early, then he improved. The pass rush helped him. I was thinking of this line I was trying to encapsulate. I think he should give the defensive line a quarter of his pay this past week. They brought so much heat. It was Jared Goff hasn't looked that bad in a long time. I know it was windy. You were at the game. We'll get into that as well. But holy smokes, Andrew. I was just like, this line, if they continue to play like that, because I know you're talking about last year and how good it was last year, you're going to help with Joey Jackson.
Big time. And I think that's going to be consistent because how many times did you really hear his name called aside from that 4th and 3 play that he had in the end zone? And I know he gave up the touchdown. He was in coverage on the Jamison Williams play, but Jamison Williams is an explosive receiver who gets the best out of a lot of corners. But, Adam, we do have to talk about the injuries along the offensive line.
Yes. All right, so let's get to this week's injury review brought to you by the attorneys at Begley, Carlin, and Mandio. Contact them today for a free consultation at 215-806-3689. That's 215-806-3689. All right, so let's get to the Eagles first here. We'll do a little Cowboys later. All right, so Lane Johnson, right? So he's got the sprained foot. He's got the Lisfranc sprain. It's not the fracture. Now, what's interesting, I heard on the station you work for, The Fanatic this morning, Jeff McClain did say yes, the information's correct in 4 to 6 weeks. That's my understanding, by the way. But he had an interesting note. That's without the testing coming back. Apparently, the initial examination's a sprain, but there's so much swelling they can't get the X-ray.
It's going to take a week, I believe he said.
So if it's a fracture, by the way, it's actually called a rupture. So when we had Mike Mamola on, I asked Mike, that actually ended his career. This is before Deuce Staley had the Lisfranc.
Right.
And this is the infancy of that injury and how they treat it. And Deuce's was crazy. He actually re-injured it. But this one here it's scary because Nakobe Dean had it 2 years ago and it ended the season. When you have a procedure, you're done. You're done. The only player to come back early on this surgery, the surgery, who was the kid? Because I talked to him about the Memphis receiver who was drafted in the 4th round by the Steelers a couple years ago. Real short kid.
Calvin Austin.
Good call. That was it. So I said to Calvin in training camp, I said, Calvin, I don't know how did you come back 2 months early? Because he goes, well, they told me 7 months or 8 months. I said, there's no way. I'm going to beat that timeline. He beat it by 2 months. That's hard to do. Now, I know he's a smaller player. He's not putting the kind of weight on that someone like Lane would have. But let's hope that it's not surgery. It's just the sprain of the midfoot. The Lisfranc injury is a midfoot sprain. A doctor told me years ago when I first started covering the league in the early 2000s, it's an awkward injury. It separates into two when you fracture it. It's awful when you do that. So let's hope it's not. So that's Lane. Now, what do you know about Cam Jurgens? He had the knee injury, then he left and didn't come back. Do you know anything about this thing?
Yeah. So another note on Lane Johnson. He's for Calvin Austin. He was also considerably younger than Lane Johnson.
Yes, way
coming
younger.
Back from
but
that.
it's still the same injury.
Right.
Well, it could be for Lane. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. And then for Cam Jurgens, They didn't
never said it was undisclosed, right.
because it was towards the end of the game.
Correct. Right.
And we'll learn more tomorrow when the Eagles are back on the practice field.
That's right.
And they have their first official report of the week. But Brett Toth came in for the final 11 snaps of that game. In fact, the first play that he came in on was the push play. And I think if you're the Eagles,
I didn't agree with that, but go ahead. When they did it, I was like, why would you do this with a backup center just coming to call? But what did you think about that?
This is just the way that I'm reading it right now. And they have bigger goals than right now. And I think knowing that Brett Toth can capably play center and he's healthy, it might serve them well to shelve Cam for a little bit of time.
No, I was just talking about the 4th and 1. What did you think of that?
Oh, I was still on the injuries. Yeah, no, I didn't like it. I mean, just don't give a team that has nothing potential life, and the way your defense is playing, there's no need to.
With Toth coming off the bench, I thought it was cool. But let's get back to Brett Toth, and we just talked about Juergens and the knee injury. We'll find out tomorrow, like you said, after practice, what it is. But so Brett Toth, you've gotten to know him, you've covered him. Mm-hmm. That game he had against the Giants, I almost passed out. I was blown away by how well he played. But if he's got to start this week at Dallas with Quinnen Williams on the other side, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, first, I'm a big Brett Toth guy. You're not going to find a smarter guy. He was a nuclear engineering major in the Army, and just talking to a number of different teammates, he's just highly intelligent. But, yeah, that's going to be an interesting matchup because the Cowboys are playing a lot more physical with Quinnen Williams then. They're doing some different things. So it's not the same defense that they've rolled out back in Week 1.
Yeah, they're way more competitive on that side of the football. Now, Cowboys, Miles Sanders is out for the season. Yes, that Miles Sanders, former Eagle, second-round pick, he had ankle injuries, and there's no way he'll be back there next year. He hadn't played well in a number of years, really since he left Philly. Mm-hmm. And Trayvon Diggs, it's not related to the knee why he went on IR. He had a concussion supposedly at home. Very strange.
That's odd, yeah.
Yeah, that was an odd one. Javon Ravel, you know well about him.
Oh, yeah, East Carolina.
Tell us about him.
He was one of my favorite corners in this draft class. He's physical. He's lengthy. Sometimes he can be a little too handsy, but I really like the way that he moves in and out of his breaks, and he can match up with all different types of receivers, and he's a really smart football player. They just got him back, I believe.
They did. He played in the game. He played 19 snaps against the Raiders. Does he have good size for Ravel? I can't remember.
I think he's 6'1", 194.
Oh, that's long, right. DeMarvion Overshown, this poor guy has had 3 major knee injuries, but you know what?
He's a tremendous football player.
He played last night, 31 snaps against the Raiders. Both played for the first time this season. They also got one of their safeties off IR. So the good thing is, Andrew, the good thing is for the Cowboys are getting healthy, and we'll talk more about the matchup and the keys to the game on our next segment. But, guys, that was the injury review brought to you by the attorneys at Begley, Carlin, and Mandio. Contact them today for a free consultation at 215-806-3689. That's 215-806-3689. It's Adam Caplan, Andrew DiCecco from Inside the Birds. You're listening to the Pro Football Report presented by BCWSA right here on 1490 WBCB, 107.3 FM, and also seen live at WBCBsports.com. Andrew and I are here at Chicken Pete's on Roosevelt Boulevard. We'll be right back.
When an Eagles player gets hurt, the team takes care of him. When you get hurt, the attorneys at Begley, Carlin, and Mandio will take care of you. They understand that a severe accident can be a life-altering event. You need a reliable teammate to fight for you. The attorneys at Begley, Carlin, and Mandio will get you great results. And if there's no recovery, there's no fee. Contact them today at 215-750-0110 for a free consultation. 215-750-0110 for a reliable ally that's on your side.
Hi, it's Pete from Chicky and Pete's, the official sports bar of your world champion Philadelphia Eagles. Go where the players go. Come join us all season for Eagles pep rallies, watch parties, and the best in-game experience anywhere. Ice cold draft beer, world famous food, and fan-friendly fun for every Eagles game. Every Monday night in South Philly, the Jordan Mailata Show, presented by Miller Lite, followed by Chicky and Pete's Players Lounge with a current player hosted by Ike Reese and Hugh Douglas. Go where the players go. Chickies and Pete's.
This is Tommy Green from the 1993 National League champion Phillies. Every champion needs a good game plan. BCWSA and I want to make sure you have a game plan when it comes to conserving our most precious resource, water. Whether you're washing dishes, brushing your teeth, or watering your garden, there are ways you can save water and save money. Visit bcwsa.net for tips on conserving water. BCWSA, proven.
Your day-to-day life is hectic between having to pick up the kids, make dinner, the countless other tasks that you got to get done. Rob's Automotive and Collision is there to make your life a whole lot easier. Make sure you take advantage of their spacious waiting rooms, the large flat-screen TVs, complimentary coffee and muffins, and free Wi-Fi. So even when you do have to stop, Rob's is there to make you feel right at home. Give Rob's a call today at 215-826-9200 for any of your auto repair needs.
We now return to Chickies and Pete's for the Pro Football Report presented by BCWSA. Once again, here are your hosts from Inside the Birds, Adam Caplan and Andrew DiCecco.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Pro Football Report presented by BCWSA right here on 1490 WBCB and 107.3 FM, and also seen live at WBCBsports.com. It's Adam Caplan and Andrew DiCecco from Inside the Birds. And Andrew, by the way, we want to get into some of your content. We're going to get into the keys to the game in a minute. But one of the things that we love that you do this post-game pod.
Yeah.
Tell people about that.
Yeah, immediately after the game, I usually, if it's a home game, after the locker room, and it's just some of my immediate takeaways and observations from the game, and it adds a little bit more context after I'm able to talk to players afterwards and get some of their explanations based off key things that were in my observations, and I enjoy doing it. It's always really good, and I've gotten a lot of really good feedback.
Keep it going, my friend. All right, so it's time now for this week's Penworth Financial Keys to the Game. The key to your financial future is Penworth Financial. Call them today at 267-997-4503 or visit them at penworth.com. So, Andrew, keys to the game from our friends at Penworth Financial. Let's start Eagles. To win this game, Andrew, what do the Eagles have to do on offense?
They have to protect up front with Fred Johnson there at right tackle. If you can't protect, you can't play offense. And that's going to be a big test for life without Lane Johnson, at least in the immediate future. That to me, is going to be a big key. And you like to see them be able to sustain some semblance of a running game. That's been absent all season.
Yeah.
And
they're playing the right team.
They're playing the right team for it. So this is an ideal situation for this offense.
True.
You're playing indoors. You're playing against a porous Dallas defense that you should have opportunities to be able to sustain some sort of production.
So to me, Andrew, I would love to see them, and I hate to say establish the run. It's so old-fashioned. I get that, but man, they've other than two games. This last game was okay, and the Giants game was phenomenal. But other than that, they've been awful running the football.
Yep.
But the thing is, if Brett Toth is starting, and you got Fred Johnson at right tackle, I know Toth did play great against the Giants. You're still playing with two backup linemen on the road, hostile atmosphere. Could be doing some silent count. Maybe hard to hear that. I've been to that stadium.
It's loud. Yeah.
I hate that stadium. It's too big. It's too high. I was at the Super Bowl when the Packers played the Steelers.
Oh, okay.
You keep looking up. It doesn't end. It's like a stadium that doesn't end, Andrew. But I look. This is a team you could get Barkley off on. You got to get him off to a good start. And then Kevin Patullo talked about it today. Play action, which they've been running a little bit more. Get that going. If the Cowboys start playing, loading up that box, start going to the receivers. Look, remember, again, we just did in our injury review, Trayvon Diggs is not playing. You've got Ravel back. We'll see if he plays more this week. They're not very good at corner, Andrew.
Kalen Carson's another player who
tall, but
I liked him coming out of Wake Forest. He has a lot of he has the attitude, and I think they took him in the second round. He hasn't really performed particularly well. He's just a middle of the road corner right now. But yes, this should be a situation that's ripe for the picking in terms of the passing game. So if they can't get it right this week, Adam, I don't know when they're going to get it right.
Good point. Yeah, you're right. And they got, by the way, the Cowboys got Malik Hooker back last week, actually last night technically, against the Raiders. But looking at the situation on offense, on your point, and that's the best point, is protect. Think protection first. If you can protect up front, there are going to be plays. Goddard has had some good games against the Cowboys. Don't forget about him. He had two nice catches, but they didn't go to him. I want to ask you this question about the game.
Yeah.
The game against this game that they just won, which was really tight. What was the win like? Because the Packers game was bad, but this game against the Lions seemed worse, and you were at that game.
Yeah, I mean, it took a Herculean effort from the defense to be able to pry it out, 16-9. What I will say is, and I opened the show with this, I'm not ever one to make excuses or pardon anything, but the wind was definitely a factor for both quarterbacks. Jared Goff completed 37.8% of his passes. Jalen Hurts, 50%. I look at the post route, I think it was, to Devontae. You can see the ball almost alter its trajectory over his head. Same thing to Dallas Goedert in one instance where he was looking it in and the ball sort of tailed downward. It was just really challenging conditions. Now, there were plays to be made. That wheel route to Saquon Barkley, you have to connect on that.
He overthrew
You got to connect on that. He also threw a nice one to Jahan Dotson, who absorbed a huge hit from Brian Branch.
That was a big-time throw.
Big time.
Over the defender, over his hand. And then, of course, they had two drops. They had two drops in the first quarter, which were bad.
Devontae had two, and I think Dallas may have had
Goddard
two.
did. He had one bad one really early in the game. But, yeah, so those are the offensive keys to the game. Let's get to defense. And I know Dallas has a line that's kind of been revamped over the last couple of years with retirements and injury. What are your thoughts on Eagles defense versus the Cowboys offensive line?
Look, the Cowboys offensive line is healthy, and they're among the league's best. And, I mean, this is going to be a really good test as to the pass rush that we just saw. And maybe if they're able to build off of that. But I'm looking at it particularly from an interior defensive line perspective, because I believe that Jalen Carter and Moro Jomo and Jordan Davis are going to dictate this game from a defensive standpoint. Now, you have Cooper Beebe there. You have Tyler Booker, right? They have players, but the Eagles' defensive line from the interior, I think, can really wreak havoc. And all of a sudden, now your edge rushers are able to clean up and be able to take advantage of some of those matchups. That's going to be the key, in my estimation. Now, Dak Prescott with George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb.
Wow.
This is going to be another big week for Adoree, because I have to imagine that they're going to have him highlighted as a player they're going to look to go after in this game, which makes it all the more important that the Eagles are able to get home from a pass rush standpoint.
Right, and remember, there's no weather. It's indoors, as Andrew said earlier.
Ideal.
You don't have to worry about that. And George Pickens is so explosive. He attacks the football. CeeDee Lamb, one of the best zone runners. He sits in zones, Andrew, and he follows it. Jake Ferguson's a good tight end.
Yeah, he is. He doesn't get talked about enough, but he clearly has a good rapport with Dak Prescott. He's effective in the red zone, and he's also good after the catch, as the Eagles know.
The key to me is the depth of the Eagles' defensive line now, which they've not had since last season. BG, by the way, he had that one quality rush where he got upfield.
Yeah.
So I was pretty impressed with that. So to me, Andrew, the matchups right now to me, and we'll see what the injury reports for both teams. Remember now, Dallas is on a short week. Eagles are on a short week, but they're obviously they played late Sunday night. So we'll see how the Eagles handle that. And don't forget, next week the Eagles are on a really short week because they play on Black Friday at home against
Chicago
the Bears.
Yeah.
3 p.m. What kind of time is that?
I don't know. It's weird. I'm all for it. I'm just going to embrace it.
Yeah. I agree with you there. So how do you see this game playing out? Early word, again, I know they haven't practiced it. You don't know the injury reports. You see this as a game the Eagles should control?
Yeah, I do. But I also think that Dallas is going to score some points. That's just we talk about the perfect conditions and things like that. Dak Prescott's playing. I mean, the game last night, he was playing very well. They're an inconsistent football team, but they have enough pieces there offensively that I think they are going to be able to move the football. But this is going to be a game where the Eagles' offense is going to kind of look, I'm not going to say reminiscent to the Giants game, but they're going to be able to tap into some things, especially in the run game.
All right, that was your Penworth financial keys to the game. Andrew and I just gave you those keys to the game. I see the Eagles getting it. I see the Eagles getting this win. Sirianni great on the road. Penworth financial keys to the game. The key to your financial future is Penworth Financial. Call them today at 267-997-4503 or visit them at penworth.com. Folks, you're listening to the Pro Football Report presented by BCWSA right here on 1490 WBCB and 107.3 FM, and also seen live at WBCBsports.com. It's Adam Caplan, Andrew DiCecco. We're at Chicken Pizza, Roosevelt Boulevard, not too far from where I grew up. We're in Northeast Philly. Next week we'll be in Marlton, and we'll talk to you right after this break. We'll be right back.
Hi, it's Pete from Chicky and Pete's. Do you have a large party of 10, 20, even 50 people? We can't wait to treat you like family at Chicky and Pete's. Forget about deposits or credit card reservations. Making a reservation for your large group is effortless at Chickies and Pete's. Lots of options to celebrate and make your night out unforgettable. Order off the menu or select from food and drink packages. Private party rooms available. Make your reservations right now at chickiesandpete's.com. And don't forget, Chicky and Pete's gift cards are the perfect fit for any occasion. Only at Chickies and Pete's.
Hey BCWSA customers, this is Tommy Green from the 1993 National League Champion Phillies. My friends at BCWSA are committed to providing us with safe, reliable water and sewer services. They operate state-of-the-art treatment facilities, provide clean drinking water, and make much-needed investments to protect our environment and ensure a sustainable future. Learn how BCWSA's investments help grow and serve our communities. Visit bcwsa.net. BCWSA, prove it.
Rob's Automotive and Collision Center in Lower Bucks County is a full-service repair center with competitive prices, top-of-the-line products, and the finest auto body and mechanical repair technicians anywhere. Rob's makes repairing your car easy. Same-day service guaranteed. Whether it's an oil change, state inspection, or a mechanical issue, Rob's will have you in and out and on your way. 2700 Veterans Highway in Bristol, 215-826-9200 for 24-hour emergency towing. Call 215-826-0250.
We now return to Chickies and Pete's for the Pro Football Report presented by BCWSA. Once again, here are your hosts from Inside the Birds, Adam Caplan and Andrew DiCecco.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Pro Football Report presented by our friends at BCWSA. We're right here on 1490 WBCB and 107.3 FM, and also seen live at WBCBsports.com. It's Adam Caplan, Andrew DiCecco from Inside the Bird. So, Andrew, let's get to the audio part of what you do for us at Inside the Birds. Give everybody an idea of what you got coming Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, over the weekend, Sunday after. Give everyone an idea what you got for us.
Yeah, I do a daily podcast called DiCecco Daily, which is on the Inside the Birds podcasting platform. I do daily updates. I'm at the NovaCare Complex Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, so it's updates based off of the information that I learn, injury reports, interesting nuggets that maybe don't make it into a story, and then I have my rookie diary with Mac McWilliams. I'm enjoying my conversations with him. We had a nice chat last week, and that usually drops Saturday morning. And I have a couple of good stories that I'm working on right now.
All right, Mac McWilliams. How's he handling really not playing? It's hard for a rookie.
He's handling it well. Yeah. He's handling it well. And I said, where does that patience come from? And he said his mother. His mother, going through a lot, through life, working a lot of jobs. And he said that she instilled that in him at a young age. And he said he's just focusing on the process, keeping his mental right, and just going to work every day.
So, Andrew, you grew up in the Philadelphia area. Eagles, Dallas. What does this game mean to you? Let's go back to your fandom. Let's get as a reporter. But what are the Dallas Cowboys living in this era for your whole life? What do they mean? What did that matchup mean to you growing up?
Well, I remember, being back in elementary school, and there was this is mid-'90s, so they were relevant then, and you'd see a lot of kids that were wearing Cowboys hats, and I never quite understood it. My parents they had a hatred for Dallas. I do remember that, and I personally remember like the Quincy Carters and the Chad Hutchinsons and
wow, now you're going old school.
Yeah,
it's some bad quarterbacks, man. In the 90s,
had some really bad
2000s,
quarterbacks. Yeah. I remember the big Sheldon Brown hit, 2 Sheldon Brown hits on the same player, Reggie Swenton, back in 2002, and yeah, those are some of my memories from that.
All right, so Andrew, after this game, the Eagles will host the Bears. They'll be in a short week. The Chicago Bears, I don't want to call them a fraudulent 7-3. I thought they'd be 8 or 9 wins. Maybe they're clearly going to be better than that. Let's get into the Bears a little bit before we end the show today. What are your thoughts on the Bears this season?
Yeah, I mean, they're a team that you don't know quite what to make of them. Now, Caleb Williams clearly has skill, but I don't know if he's not the risk-averse quarterback. He will turn the football over. He has a very powerful arm. And I think that they're starting to do some good things defensively. Remember, they added C.J. Gardner-Johnson at safety.
How about
I think
that?
He has 3 sacks for them this year.
That's crazy.
And I think they're starting to come together. But they're not a team, at least in my estimation, Adam, that's equipped to win anything right now. But you look at their division, the NFC North, I think they're in the driver's seat right now.
What has
if I'm
happened to
correct
the
on that.
Lions? Yeah, you were at that game.
Yeah,
what do you think of the Lions' performance?
Well, they have to get healthy. I mean, they've now lost Sam Laporta. He's on IR.
Yep.
He's key to what they do offensively. Their secondary is banged up, and until they start to get healthy, it feels like things are slipping away from them at the most inopportune time.
Yeah, the Lions. Getting back to the game, you talked about the win and what was happening. Jared Goff does not have Hurts' arm strength. And there were some balls that came out funky. I know the Eagles' pass rush kind of collapsed him, where he couldn't always step into his throws. But Jared Goff has had a really good year. And prior to this game, I look at that division right now. I mean, Minnesota's they just can't win.
And Green Bay, I mean, I don't really view them as a team that's going to make some noise.
Josh Jacobs is hurt right now.
They also have to get healthy, and they're running out of time. So it could be the Chicago Bears that emerge.
All right, so let's get to the reality of the NFC. Right now, to me, it's the Eagles and the Rams. We know the Eagles have owned the Rams. Now, I say that very early in the season, the Rams crushed the Eagles for almost 3 quarters. I mean, it wasn't competitive. And then all sorts of crazy things happened. I give the Eagles tremendous credit for coming back. Hey, mentally, they were in it. Heart of a champion. But the Rams are playing their best football. Now, I say that. Seattle, if Sam Darnold doesn't turn it over 4 times, he's turned over 7 times during the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, he made me look bad because I spoke well about him going into that game, and he threw 4 interceptions.
Sam Darnold has been an amazing story because this guy couldn't get out of his own way prior to last season. But he started turning over like crazy late last season, as you know, with the Vikings, now with Seattle. So as we size up the NFC, Andrew, let's get into it. To me, it's today I ranked them. I did my power rankings. I actually had the Rams 1, Eagles 2. I know the Eagles beat them. They were so early. I don't subscribe to this. Oh, well, if you do power rankings, if a team beat the other team, they have to be above them. I don't agree with that. Eagles, Rams 1, 2, or vice versa. How do you see the top teams there?
I think it's fair to put the Rams at 1 just because right now they're firing on all cylinders on both sides of the football. And so they are starting to hit their stride at the right time. Now, if the Eagles' offense was able to do a little bit more to help pick up the tab, I might lean.
I like that line.
I might lean Eagles 1 and Rams 2. But the Seahawks are a team that I've been really impressed with this season. I probably have them slotted at 3. They are a fun defense to watch. They fly around. They float the football.
They execute.
When Sam Darnold is right, when he's when he has a clean pocket and things are optimal for him, he's able to pick apart teams surgically. And they have that addition of Rashid Shaheed, who's a tremendous vertical threat. I think he complements what they have in Smith and Jigba. And, yeah, I think that's kind of the way that I'm looking at those top 3 teams.
See, I liked the Bucs earlier this season, but they've been so crushed by injury. Bucky Irving, I know Sean Tucker was phenomenal last week.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, as much as I like Rashid White as a back, Sean Tucker's a better football player. He's more explosive.
Yeah, big time.
Mike Evans on IR. Godwin hasn't barely played this season. That's crushed them, so you have to move them down. The Niners are starting to get healthier. Still worry about their pass rush injuries. Warner out for the season. That's a major, major problem. Bosa out for the season. That's a major, major problem. You're just not going to be able to recover from that. You saw what happened in Washington. So right now, I would see it Rams, Eagles, right? I like Seattle. I actually picked them to be a wild card team this year. They've been a little bit better than I expected. I'm worried about the Bucs injuries. You and I see the Packers the same way. I think they're fraudulent. Matt, Mr. Regular Season LaFleur, never wins in the playoffs anyway. And I love Detroit, but they're so beat up in the secondary. See, it's the last man standing. If you could be healthy, Andrew, in this business, you could win.
And you mentioned the Bucs. Now they should, at least that's my belief, get Mike Evans back late in the season, right?
Right before the regular season ends, yes.
They're a team to me that always seems like they could be dangerous just based off of Todd Bowles and the unique looks and the pressure that he provides. And Baker Mayfield, he doesn't get phased. You look at Jared Goff going into those conditions and he looked rattled early. Baker Mayfield doesn't seem to get rattled, and that's a scary combination when you enter the postseason.
Andrew, the team they shocked me last week. Bryce Young played the game of his life as an NFL player.
Yeah.
It's been more down than up as a player, but 6-5, is this a playoff team to you?
They're on the fringe. They're on the fringe. I don't quite see them. They might be able to sneak in, but right now I have them out. But they kind of are a fun team to watch because some of these games, you go into it and they're like, they have no business winning. But they get some gutsy performances out of the quarterback. Tommy Tremble had a really nice play.
How about that?
Big-time play late in that game, their tight end. And they seem to just be rallying.
AFC-wise, in our last 5 minutes, Denver is confounding at 9-2. They had a nice win against the Eagles. They're so inconsistent offensively, despite all the talent. Best defense in the National Football League.
Yeah.
Can this team make a run and get to the Super Bowl, Denver?
They can make a run, but I don't think they can make it to the Super Bowl with Bo Nix. And that's the reason why I say that. I don't think Bo Nix is good enough to elevate. I don't think he's ready at this moment to elevate an offense and do enough and play mistake-free football like the Eagles do to be able to make that leap. Despite how good that defense is, and I love Nick Bonito, their pass rusher,
so
Pat Surtain is a fantastic corner, the best in the NFL.
He's hurt, unfortunately, right now,
Yeah, I mean, I just think that they have a lot on that side of the ball, but I think what's going to be their ultimate drawback is offensively with a young quarterback in Bo Nix.
The biggest stunner this season, Andrew. The Chiefs are 5-5. Did they even get in the playoffs? When Andy's usually great in November, not so great this year. What has happened to the Chiefs?
You know, it's hard for me to envision the NFL playoffs without the Chiefs in it. So some way, somehow, I'm of the belief that the Chiefs are going to find a way to sneak in there, because whenever you have the combination of Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, I just feel like they're going to find a way.
I would try to pick them now to get in, but man, the Chargers, the Broncos, but the Chargers, the heck?
The Chargers, yeah.
How do you they get absolutely – here's what's comical. They left L.A. on Friday early to get used to the time difference, 3 hours. They got smoked. How do you explain that?
As I like to say, the Chargers got chargered, or they're chargering. And they're a team that's always really inconsistent. I love Justin Herbert, but he's a quarterback that can fold at the worst moments. He doesn't necessarily meet the moment like I go back to what Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes and the great quarterbacks do in this league. And they're just a confounding team because I don't know that they have that winning DNA. When the lights are brightest, when the pressure's turned up to 100, I don't know if they're going to be that team that can stand apart from the opponent. Perhaps
the biggest surprise in the National Football League this season, and I didn't like the over 8.5. The Patriots at 9-2. How do you explain this?
I love them. I love that team.
Why do you like them so much?
I like Drake May. I was a big believer in the quarterback coming out of college, and he plays with a lot of moxie, and he's not afraid to push the ball down the field. He's been really receptive to coaching. At least that's how it appears from the outside. And I don't think it's any mistake that he's amplified his game from year one to year two and made tangible strides there. So I like the Patriots solely because of the belief that I have in the development of the quarterback, Drake May.
And coaching matters. Mike Vrabel's incredible. I mean,
he's got everybody believing in his messaging, and that really shines through anytime you watch one of their games.
A team that everybody liked coming into the season, but I don't know what to make of them, is the Buffalo Bills. Your thoughts on the Bills right now?
I'm not a big Bills guy. I look at what Josh Allen has done, and he has to be Superman, and sometimes not even that's enough. What did he have, 6 touchdowns, 3 passing, 3 rushing?
6, yeah.
And I don't know. I don't think defensively they have enough on that side of the ball. They always seem to be leaking oil in that area. By the way, Ty Johnson. I'm gonna pat myself on the back a little bit here because going into the draft back in 2019, I went to his pro day, ran about a 4.29, 4.31. I mentioned that he was going to be a late round steal. He's drafted in the 6th round, bounced around a little bit, but he's established staying power, and he's a key player for a team like that.
And then when you look at the AFC, there are always teams where you go, okay, how did this happen? The Colts at 8-2, coming off their bye. It's another team. Daniel Jones playing well. Do you believe in the Colts?
Yeah, I do. I believe in the coaching for one, but they also have sort of implemented a system that I think is optimal for Daniel Jones. And you couple that with Michael Pittman and Alec Pierce, who I really liked for a while. He's starting to really emerge here. And Jonathan Taylor. Is remarkable this season. And they added Sauce Gardner as well. So I like what they're doing over there in Indianapolis.
Very aggressive trade by Chris Ballard, the GM, who's been pretty mediocre, but he's going for it this year. All right, everyone, that's Andrew DiCecco. I'm Adam Caplan. You've been listening to the Pro Football Report presented by BCWSA right here on 1490 WBCB and 107.3 FM, and also seen live at WBCBsports.com. We're at Chicken Pete's on Roosevelt Boulevard. Next Tuesday will be at Chicken Pete's in Marlton, New Jersey. And we've got our on-site producer, Gus Barber. Gus, we thank you for your help tonight. And Andrew, any parting words before you get to practice tomorrow?
No, not really. I think we covered it all. Make sure you check out the DiCecco Daily Podcast. I recorded one before this show.
Oh, awesome.
And it should be up on the platform.
All right, thanks to our sponsors. We'll see you next week.